Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's the post-fight podcast. It's back after a week or I can't remember how long it's been. Took a little break after one on TNT4, but one championship is back with Dangal on Saturday night, featuring Arjun Balor against heavyweight champion Brandon Vera. So we are here to break it all down, break down the card, make our picks. I'm joined by Leon Jennings in the middle there, and Chris Edwards Bailey on the right. Chris, I'll go to you first. How are you doing, man? Good to see you again.
Yeah, man, I'm fantastic. Feeling good. Enjoying my day off, getting a bit of work done. It's been super hot lately over here, but apart
Yeah,
from that, life's so good. Feeling great. Feel
I
a bit
just took
lost
a
without
walk.
on TNT, but apart from that, life is good.
You've missed
Well, at
me,
least
haven't
it's
you, Chris?
yeah. Saturday night is a bit better than a midweek Thursday morning, I think, guys. But yeah, it's so hot here. I walked for breakfast earlier, and I came back. I had to shower, I had to put my shirt in the wash. It's so hot, 32 degrees. I don't even know the humidity at the moment. Leon, it's also pretty hot in Malaysia, right? You're sweating in the middle there. What's going on?
I've just ran up and down 14 flights of stairs, and it's about 32 degrees here as well. So you've got, I guess, Malaysian-like temperatures at the moment.
Yeah. Tammy gave you a cake, right?
Yeah, I've just got given an amazing-looking chocolate cake. I don't know if I can show you from Tammy the PR.
Let's pick that up. Oh yeah, open that box. Ah, fantastic. Is that your leaving present, going away?
That's my leaving present. Yeah, although, to be honest, I haven't told anyone. I haven't even told my mum I'm going yet because everything's in the air. I've had 2 flights cancel. I've got the COVID tests. The whole Malaysia's on a strict lockdown. I've had to get a police letter to get me to the airport. So I don't want to start telling everyone I'm going now until I'm there. And especially my mum's worried, don't they?
Yeah.
So...
All right. Well, hopefully you won't be leaving in the next an hour or so. Because
I've got to go for the airport in about 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, let's get into it then. Yeah, we're going to also be joined. I forgot to mention, Dom Lau is going to jump on the show in about 20 minutes. One championship ring announcer himself, Dapper Dom. He is in quarantine in Hong Kong after coming back from Singapore. Still, it's like the 5th quarantine stint Dom's done in the last few months. So fair play to Dom. But it does mean he's got a bit of time to speak to us, which would be good. But before that, yeah, a little more seriously, we wanted to talk about the latest One Championship news. And I think, guys, the most serious thing, the biggest pressing issue is what's going on with Phoe Thaw in Myanmar. And it's a really depressing situation. I know I reported earlier this week from, I understand that he's still alive. And Leon, you reported as well. What did your sources tell you after what happened with Phoe? He was involved in a big bomb blast outside his gym and had burns all over his body. But you got an update, didn't you, on Wednesday or Tuesday?
Yeah, he's conscious again. He's obviously, the military have him. No one can see him, no immediate family, but I've been told even if they tried to anyway, they'd probably be captured as well. So it's not a very good situation.
It's very depressing. Chris, you've seen the pictures, haven't you? The body, just severe burns all over his body, lacerations. It's incredible to think, isn't it? I mean, we know what's going on there, but the world still seems to be turning slightly a blind eye to it, or is that an unfair thing for me to say?
I think it's a bit of a mix of both. I mean, a lot of countries over the world are going through really, really big issues at the moment. They've had issues with COVID. Everyone in the world at the moment, it seems, has had to deal with quite a lot with their mental health, whether they've had lockdowns or not, the fear of disease, wearing masks. It's been an odd time, people struggling to make a living, losing their jobs. And maybe that is a distraction. Maybe that's a little bit of blame on all of us. It is really, really hard to tell. You just got to wish the best for the guy. And most importantly, obviously, I wish the best for Phoe Thaw, but I just wish the best as well, just for Myanmar, the country, and all the people of Myanmar and the diaspora outside the country, because there's huge issues there. You know, over here in Hong Kong, we have a very small Burmese community, but some of them can speak out, some of them can't speak out for fear what may happen to their families. So I guess it's really on people like us, the normal people, the fans of MMA as well, just to really push it out there, spread it on our Twitters. But yeah, it's just such a tough situation, and my heart goes out to Phoe Thaw and the people of Myanmar, all the Burmese people.
Yeah, Leon, I know you were a little upset last week that you thought there weren't many MMA sites covering it. You know,
Not just MMA. globally. And like Chris makes a good point. Obviously, a lot of countries have their own issues right now, but I think the countries that generally cover most travesties and often do things about it, they're generally not everyone. They are some places are, but I think if this happens in other countries, it would be all over the news. In our home country of England, in the US, that isn't the case though. Considering how bad this situation is, I don't think it's getting the coverage it should be getting. And I don't want to be too political, but I do feel if this was a country with oil, it would be all over the news, and certain countries would be taking action because it'd be a bit more in their interest. But with nothing to gain, I just think most of the world are just kind of pretending it's not happening. And I do find that pretty depressing. And another little side note, my mum lives in Thailand, so she deals with a lot of the Burmese people. They do a lot. A lot of them go to Thailand, work for no money, 7 days a week, all the hours under the sun to send back to their families. They're the nicest, gentlest people on the planet. They're the last country that deserves to have this going on, and it's just heartbreaking.
You've interviewed Phoe a few times, I imagine, as well, haven't you? Because you've been doing this longer than I have, covering one championship. I'm a relative newbie, but you were there before me, and I think you've seen him fight. You've interviewed him. Is that right?
I haven't actually interviewed him. No, I don't think. I've covered most of the events, but there's been one or two I haven't covered. So I'm not even sure if I've seen him fight in person. I'd have to check on that. But I know he follows Asian Persuasion MMA, and obviously I follow him. And from speaking to everyone in one, Ong La says the same thing. He's just a typical Burmese guy. He's just a lovely gentleman, lovely gentle guy.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what else we can do. I'm not religious, but I pray this guy's somehow gonna survive. I don't know what. It's a serious situation, isn't it? We've seen what happened with some other famous people, haven't we, in Myanmar, who've spoken out against the military. I think there was a poet. What was his name? Ket T, I think, and his body was returned to his wife with the organs missing, which is really horrible. Just hope something can. I don't know. The outlook's pretty bleak, isn't it?
And another quick thing as well. What hero he is. He was risking his life to stand up for what he believes. Most people aren't capable of doing that because that's a big ask, to risk your life to stand up for what is right. And he had warnings, and he kept doing what he believed was right. And obviously now he's in this situation, and it's a dire situation. And
I think Ong La put it pretty succinctly. He said the fighting we do in the circle, in the cage, is nothing compared to what's going on in Myanmar. So I know we have a lot of fans from Myanmar. My alarm is going off. Sorry. I know we have a lot of fans there. So any of them see this, we're all thinking of you and everything, and hope you're safe. But Chris, do you have anything else to add, or we'll go into a bit of one championship, Dangal?
Just wish the best for the Burmese people. Just so much going on in the country, and the way they've just locked down the media, it's quite hard to know what's going on. So there's a lot going on out there. So anyone who does want to know, do a lot of research and then decide for yourselves. And Phoe Thaw is a bit of a legend, and I believe both of you guys must have been able to see him because he was on the Century card over in Japan. So,
of course,
yeah.
But he had his last. I think he lost that fight to South Korean guy. Yoon. But I was watching some of his fights, this week. The one in Yangon when the front push kick KO'd Cambodian fighter Sorsay, that was awesome. Crowd erupted. He has got a big following there apparently. So very sad.
Quickly, Ong La mentioned about people bending the truth. What I haven't heard. Are there people making stuff up online about Myanmar or about Phoe?
I think he's referring to maybe either people saying he was dead, or also because the military put out that the guy that he'd made it was testing a homemade bomb and he blew himself up. Maybe that was it. I don't know. Next time I speak to Ong, I'll try and clarify, but don't really want to bother Ong right now.
They did find gear for protesting.
Yeah, Well, he's got plenty of pictures on Instagram protest. You know, he wasn't shy to show. I mean, he challenged the head of the military to a cage fight. You know, held up a sign saying that probably what landed him in the situation. So hold tight. Yeah, it's a little gloomy. So let's try and move on. Alan's got a question. Maybe we can answer that. Do you guys see a possibility of Raniere facing off the winner of the heavyweight title fight at one Dangal? So it's Arjun against Brandon. He did call out Brandon, but the fights happen. We don't know who's won. But yeah, guys, do you think he would still want to fight Balor if Balor beats Vera?
I think so. I think he
definitely.
just said he's got nothing to lose. Although I said that to him before, and he said obviously he's got his unbeaten record, which he doesn't want to lose. But he's in a good position, and why not? And he loves the challenge, and he seems very keen on the idea.
Yeah, it's definitely. Whether it's
and if he
it's still like the big fight though. If it's Balor, because he wanted Vera, he said, because Vera's been the champion for a while, and that's kind of what appealed to him to take down that champ who's reigned for years.
Yeah, that would be awesome, but at the same time, I think it would be cool. But I would actually like to see, with all the heavyweights they signed lately, I'd really like to see them just getting this division moving on, building it up. This is, if you point out one division, definitely in the whole organization, really, this is probably the one, definitely on the MMA side, that needs to be leveled up. And with all the guys they have signed, and with them all starting to fight each other, we probably need to wait for another round or 2 round of fights until we get a good, clear pecking order of who's towards the top. And I just want to see them fight. I want to see the heavyweight division become active again. I mean, Brandon Vera, he talked wonderfully the other day, but he hasn't been the most active of champions. And I'd just like to see that change.
I agree. I mean, like you said, I think we don't have a clear-cut number one contender yet, which obviously plays in Raniere's hand. He could challenge for the title while all of the new signings fight for their right to fight for the title. So that could work out quite well. And like I said, it depends on who wins, how active Brandon Vera wants to be. I'd like to think he wants to be more active now. Obviously, time isn't his best friend at the moment. I think before it was partly to do with he was doing movies in between fights. I don't believe he has any movies coming up. He's training at Sanford MMA, which I think is giving him a bit more of a boost in himself and kind of revigorated himself a little bit. So I think whoever wins this, I would think, would want to compete again fairly soon.
Okay, yeah. Ongzor in the comments says Raniere should defend his middleweight title first against Abasov. That fight was originally scheduled. Yeah, that's what was going to happen, and then Abasov pulled out, so he stepped in to fight Ong La and took Ong La's second belt. So that fight could still happen. But I think he wants to go for that triple C status now. At least that's what he told us guys, wasn't it, when we interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see how it plays out with Raniere. Why don't we just have a quick scan over this card, though, before Dom arrives?
Obviously, Abasov pulled out before, like you kind of mentioned, and I think Raniere thought, well, you've blown your chance there. You're going to have to wait now. So I think he definitely wants to fight for the heavyweight title next.
Precisely. Well,
I think as well, with everything that's gone on this year, with the One TNT cards and how big that's been promoted and how huge that was for One Championship, and with Empower coming up shortly, which is probably the promotion's biggest ever female card. It's the first ever all-female fight card. It's got legends, newcomers, big stars like Stampin'. It's the perfect mix. I think this is being totally overlooked as a card, and I think arguably in the history of Indian MMA, it's one of the most important cards in the history of Indian MMA. And not a lot of people are saying that and really pushing it. But I think we are in for an absolute treat this weekend.
That's a good point. And at a point where they probably could do with a bit of a sort of a morale boosting with what's going on in India.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, this is a weird card, really, because all the talk recently has been on the TNT series, the Adamweight Grand Prix, but kind of been forgotten a little bit. And we thought we'd go to that after the TNT series. And now this one Dangal card's just kind of sneaked up on us, really. It's crazy to think it's only a couple of days away. There's a heavyweight title fight on there, some fun matchups on there. And yes, it's not really getting talked about a lot, I don't feel.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. Dom Lau should be joining us soon, but why don't we have a quick dive into some of our predictions. What about that main event? As you mentioned, Chris, could be a monumental day, monumental night for Indian MMA. Arjun Balor, former UFC heavyweight, could become the first MMA world champ from India. He's up against the Truth, Brandon Vera, who, as you mentioned, has also been training at Sanford MMA, and he's been leveling up himself. So I haven't picked yet, but JHK going for Brandon. I think I saw Chris just swing back into the middle. Or my eyes deceiving me.
I'm just a mystery, mate.
All right. Well, Tom Taylor and Big Rig are gone for Arjun Singh Balor. I'm going to pick Brandon here, I think.
Yeah, I think this is such a tough fight to call because we've seen so much of Brandon. We've seen him really fight against top guys. Obviously, he is a lot older now. He's 43, so 9 years older than his opponent. He hasn't been totally active. I mean, if you look at his previous performance, wasn't great, in all honesty. He hasn't been fighting top competition, but then Arjun Balor himself is a little bit of an unknown quantity. I mean, a lot of people do know him from his UFC run. If you do look at any of the guys he fought won in the UFC, none of them, I believe, are still with the UFC. They've all been cut. They're all in regional promotions. A lot of them went on to a little bit of a skid after they left. But he did have dominant wins. He did have good wins. He did have the one loss on the ground. It is totally tough to call. And I've been going back and forward all week. I think it's a little bit more of a 50-50. So that's the only reason I'm really going to back Brandon True Fever, because I think the plus 160 in a 50-50, that's who I'm going to back.
Yeah, Leon, I know you don't have fanatics, so you haven't made a pick, but who are you thinking of?
This fight, I'm really sat on the fence, which I often am, but it's such an interesting matchup, and there's so many unknowns, kind of like Chris was saying. I just can't wait. I love fights like this. So I love fights where I don't have a feeling either way, because they're even more intriguing. Sometimes you think, you work things out and you look at past records and that. But this one, there's so many unknown factors going into this one. I just can't wait.
How are those splinters in your backside? You're always on the fence. Yeah. No, this is a tough one to call. And I'm not gonna put my triple or nothing on. I really don't know how it's gonna finish. Heavyweights, you do tend to lean towards a knockout, of course, but we'll see. It's a tough one. These pre-recorded fights as well. I think, Chris, you're the same as me. You look at social media and you try and gauge which fighter is more positive on the Instagram and the Twitter. It's hard to tell. Both these guys are posting, promoting the event. Let us know in the chat who you think's gonna win. Ong says that Arjun's plan is to gas out Vera. Needs to know Vera's cardio has improved a lot in Sanford. Yeah, I mean, Martin and Ong told me when Brandon first turned up at Sanford, he couldn't get through the first day of workouts. It was another level for him, but he quickly adapted to that. So we'll see. I'm expecting a much improved Brandon Vera and Arjun Balor as well. I'm sure he's been leveling up over the last couple of years. It's been a while, a year and a half, I think, since he fought at Century in Tokyo. So we'll see how it goes. Let us know your picks in the chat. Otherwise,
they've both been about a year and a half, haven't they, since they last competed?
Yeah. I mean, they were meant to fight a year ago. It's been delayed a few times, hasn't it? But
yeah.
Brandon said he's next. So Brandon's honoring his word to defend the title against ASB. Do we want to talk about B Nguyen first and Ritu Phogat before Dom arrives? Because I think this one is intriguing for me.
Very.
And we can get to the rest of the card later. But Killer B against Ritu. Now, there's a lot on the line here, technically, guys, because Ritu Phogat, of course, is in the One Championship Atomweight Grand Prix, which is in 2 weeks now, May 28th. And this fight was pre-recorded a couple of weeks ago, so it's not a really quick turnaround, but it's still a quick turnaround. But the issue, guys, is if B beats Ritu, and I don't know the results, and I've got no spoilers to give you, does that maybe get her into the Grand Prix? How would you do it? Chris, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I just think personally, if B is to beat Ritu, I just personally think there's no way you can go with Ritu going into the Grand Prix. I think I love Bea. I think she's awesome. I think she's one of the most entertaining fighters in all of women's MMA, actually. She has some absolute wars. She hasn't really found herself at the very top level, obviously coming to the sport fairly late and coming to combat sports in itself fairly late. It would just make a bit of a mockery of the whole Grand Prix, really, to not have Ritu coming on off a loss. But I just don't see it happening. I think Rita's going to be too much for her. I think she's going to get it down to the ground if she has to. And I think we're going to see a pretty dominant display.
Yeah, Leon. Well, Ong in the chat here makes the point that, Ritu is still on the Grand Prix. The car hasn't changed yet. This means Ritu won, but maybe they're waiting, for the fight to happen. And then, do you think they could change the card, or are they going to stick with Ritu either way?
I think I asked chat to you after TNT 4. And he said if Ritu loses, she's out the Grand Prix. What would be interesting though, if B wins, but won't be fit in time, if she gets a little injury or something, then what? Is there someone on standby to replace both of them? I mean, unless someone wins comfortably without any injuries, they're still putting their place in the Grand Prix at risk. Or Ritu is, obviously she's in it. I mean, you talk about social media. B, if you look at social media, you think B's won from looking at both their posts, but as we know, we can't really trust that. Yeah, Ritu's still on the promotion stuff for Empower, but then she probably was already, and they're probably just putting that out, and they could change that if she loses. It's not as if they're not used to making last-minute changes the last year or so with COVID. So I don't know if we can look into that too much. I'll be very surprised if they just didn't think about that and just put it out there, thinking that people assume she won. So that's that side of things. From a fight point of view, yeah, like I said, so I think Ritu's a tough matchup for a lot of fighters, particularly maybe strikers like B. She just kind of has that little bit of a Habib style about her, where she just, what she's going to do, but it's difficult to stop her. She's taken most of her opponents down to the ground and then just unleashed over what's it called, a crucifix or ground and pound. And B, like Chris said, B is an entertaining fighter. She just likes to go toe to toe. She has said she's not going to go for that approach this time. She wants to fight more sensibly rather than more entertaining. But other fighters said that before, and then you get a little excited. So a bit like the main event, there's so many factors in this I think are quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing. But if I was obviously to predict something, I would edge it towards Ritu because of her fighting style. Even though this is, I'd say this is definitely Ritu's toughest test. And if it wasn't for the Grand Prix, this would, I think we talked about this before, B or G and Radzun were the perfect step up for Ritu in her MMA journey. She's got it now, but she has it with a lot of stake rather than if the Atomweight Grand Prix wasn't around the corner.
Well, Tom Taylor has picked Killer B, and he told me yesterday, she seems really, like in all her media appearances, she was on Ariel's show, I think, last week.
Live yesterday.
She seemed really confident. Maybe she's just promoting the fight, who knows? But I just got a little hunch. I don't know. I'm gonna go with B as well. I'm gonna, because the
thing is as well. Look, we've seen before. Quite a few fighters have really promoted their fight and have lost. But they've usually put on a good show or a good fight, and they're still proud of it. So I wouldn't think Ritu wins comfortably, just for the fact that B has been. If I don't know, I mean, you might be told to promote the fight a little bit, but if I got mauled, I'd be pretty quiet. If I lost competitively, or if I won, obviously then I would be promoting the fight. So again, that might be just us reading too much into it, like it's easy to. But like we said before, I try not to think about that too much, but there is that side of it.
Yeah, well, B also said that last loss, really sat badly with her. So she's dangerous. She says, this is when she's at her most dangerous. We'll see. We shall see. That's all I can say.
She's lost 3 in a row, which doesn't sound good. The first one against Antonia Bazzino.
That was a win. We were there, weren't we, Leon?
Okay, that was a win. Then she lost to Stamp. Stamp's looked amazing in MMA. And then the last fight, she lost to Gian Radzuin, who's and it was very competitive. Gian is one of the best atomweight in one I think she may have sneaked in there if one hadn't have brought any new athletes in. So
Yeah.
yeah, her record looks a lot worse than it deservingly should be.
Well, either way, if she puts on a good performance, win or lose, she may put herself in the conversation as an alternate, right? And there's bound to be injuries and things like that. There's a very quick turnaround between quarters and semis and the final, and then the winner fighting Angela. They want to do that in November, so who knows? She win or lose, she may put herself in the window there for a.
Well, if Ritu wins and gets to the final, she's got 4 fights in quite a small win.
Exactly, and
it just shows her confidence as well.
Shows her confidence, but it's going to take a toll. Just the relentless training does that, I think, and that's what you saw happen with Stamp. She just was switching codes as well and just constantly fighting. It all caught up with her, I think, against Alicia Rodriguez. Anyway.
The thing that I think just doesn't bode well for being this fight when it comes to Ritu is when you do look at her last 2 fights in particular, she's incorporated so much striking, and her striking has just got better and better and better. And I actually think she can probably handle the stand-up. But I think if she struggles at all, I think she's just going to take it to the ground.
Well, has Ritu fought someone with striking like B yet? I don't think so.
I think she's fought mainly strikers.
Yeah, but I think B is probably the highest caliber of opponent she's faced yet, all around.
I agree, yeah, she's fought generally strikers, I think.
Yeah. Fought, and she fought Torres as well, and they were pretty good.
But I mean, B Nguyen went
Torres and they're both strikers, predominantly strikers as well, and they couldn't hang with her ground game. So that's where Ritu's out of strength. We don't know. She's obviously been training a lot on her stand-up game, but you'd think she'd struggle on the feet against most of the top strikers in the division. Not so much the strikers that are known for strikers. But we don't know how much he's improving.
Mr. Dom Lau's here, so we'll get back to that card a bit later. What's up, Dom? How you doing?
What's going on, Nick? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. I think you know Leon as well, right? Up in the top right.
Yes, sir. How's it going, man?
And this is Chris in the bottom right. Sorry if you haven't met Chris.
Pleasure to meet you.
Good to meet you, Chris.
Yeah. It's another Hong Kong boy, Chris. We're Leon's in KL, but you're in Hong Kong as well, aren't you, Dom? You posted up in quarantine, is that right?
I am indeed, sir. Please excuse the balloons over my right shoulder. I celebrated my 40th birthday last week, or just a little under 2 weeks ago. I'm now serving my penultimate day of quarantine. Freedom looms.
Happy birthday. I didn't know you were 40. You look so young, so handsome.
Neither did the rest of the world until you told them that. But
you told them. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So good to see you. You're out tomorrow, did you say?
No, day after. Well, actually, no, sorry. Yes, tomorrow, technically, at 11:59 p.m., I am a free man. So one more sleep, and then I am out of here.
Wow. Okay, how many of these stints have you done now? I was guessing 5 in quick succession.
Yes, sir. 5 in total. But that also included that catastrophe that was the Penny's Bay incident. I think you guys, I don't know if anyone else around the world will know what that means, but we here in Hong Kong certainly do. So yeah, including Penny's Bay, that's 5 stints of quarantine that I've had to do. Sucks.
Yeah, I actually, because we're friends with, I think these guys, obviously James at Fanatics, James Bedell, and he was there with you, I think, and a bunch of people. Yeah. So it sounded like a whale of a time.
Well, actually, I think you'll also know my boy JT. So Jiten was also one of the guys, unfortunately, caught up in that cluster. So he'd actually set up a group chat, which is still active even now. And what turned out, it started off with like 10 people, like, we'll all sort of help each other and support each other through this quarantine. And then it turned into like 50, I don't even know how many people are on that thing now, but it was almost like camp, just like a really depressing summer camp, but when you have people like JT and the like in the group chat, there was some fun. It was some fun.
I have a question, Dom. When you're in Penny's Bay, are you close enough to Disneyland to hear people having fun?
No, actually, sadly, no. We couldn't hear the screams of laughter and joy coming from Disneyland. But what was funny is when we left Penny's Bay, we were all taken away on coaches, and we had to pass that sign, on the roadside over the road that said, "Thank you, please come again." I never wanted to just punch a sign as much as I did right at that very moment. But I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemies, man. Quarantine is no fun. Certainly not at Penny's Bay.
Yeah, I was actually shown a funny video by James of you commentating on the food you received, saying, "Oh, what have we got today?" It's some slime and all this. That did make me crack up a lot. I felt for you guys.
Yeah, I think it was. I'll paraphrase. I think one of the lines that kind of circulated for a bit was "What the heck surprise?" I think was from memory was the line. But it strikes me as just it blows my mind that in a time where we're going through this global pandemic, and authorities deem it necessary to put people into quarantine and things like that. And I understand their intentions are good, but you'd like to think that staying healthy and as fit as possible is high on their list, on the agenda. So you'd think that maybe getting good food, a nutritious diet and things of that nature would be high up on their list of priorities. But, sadly it isn't. But, I don't want to get into the whole politics of the whole thing. We could be here for hours.
Don't get me started, Dom.
What's it like in KL anyway? I mean, I've got friends down there who say it's just one tragedy after another.
Well, I'm getting kicked out. I'm moving to Bali next week, so I've got to do a mini 5 days quarantine in Jakarta. But I wouldn't mind so much. But after they made this announcement, the whole country's gone strict lockdown, which has made moving out of the country, doing all the things you need to do, saying goodbyes, almost impossible. So it's not ideal, but I just can't wait to get to Bali where it's all open. They're not worried about restrictions and masks and all that. So I just can't wait to get all this stuff out of the way that I've got to do, all the packing and getting to the airport, police approval letters to travel and just get there.
Man, that sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. But hey, there's worse places to
Bali's not bad, yeah.
Bali, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, Dom, it shows your utter professionalism and dedication that you've put yourself through all this. I mean, how many shows did you actually get to do live shows? You put your health on the line, with all these COVID quarantines just to commentate on. We had the TNT 4 and 1, I think, were the lives as well, and obviously you do it for all the other shows in between. But how many shows was it for 5 quarantines worth?
Let's see. I'm gonna have to jog my memory. It's all a bit blurry. But the first trip down to Singapore was back in September. That was when we were granted the green light to start doing live shows again. I think from memory, was it July or August? I think we had some Super Series events take place in Bangkok, which, sort of got the whole process rolling. But September is when we started doing events again proper in our spiritual home of Singapore. And so there was the 2 weeks then. We did a series of shows in September and October. And November. Then we had an event at the back end of December, which I had to do. I was able to do remotely, thank goodness, because it was, from memory, it was on the 18th of December.
Yeah.
Which would have meant after doing that show, I'd have come back to Hong Kong and done my quarantine over Christmas and New Year's, which, personally was a deal breaker. So I was thankfully able to do that remotely. And then, of course, that worked. That ended up being a blessing in disguise, because throughout January, February, and March, I was able to do those shows remotely as well, up until traveling again down for the TNT series. So yeah, so that's one stint of 2 weeks quarantine in September, then 2 weeks quarantine December back in Hong Kong, then down again to Singapore back end of March. And as I say, I'm just seeing out my last few days of quarantine here in Hong Kong. I tell you, man, I do not want to do this again. And this is a public service announcement right now to everybody in Hong Kong and Singapore. Stop licking doorknobs. Don't just stay safe, man. We need this travel bubble to open come May 26th.
Have you booked already for your flight for One Championship and Power for the travel bubble, Dom?
Yes, I am booked. Sadly, though, I won't qualify for the travel bubble on May 26th because the rules stipulate that I have to be quarantined for a minimum of 2 weeks after the second jab. And I'll miss out on that by a margin of 4 days. So when I head down to Singapore, we have a superb system set up between the Ministry of Health and the Singapore Tourism Board and One Championship, which allows us to come into the country without serving quarantine. However, we are under very strict guidelines and protocols. We're confined to our hotels. We have timetables that allow us to move around the hotel at certain, for training and things like this. So I'll be doing that on my way down. And as I say, fingers crossed, this bubble stays open and I don't have to do quarantine when I come back.
Definitely.
Well, Dom, I know you like to work out. How do you do it in the hotel room? You just improvise? You just doing the push-ups and sit-ups?
I tell you, man, my working out routine has just slowly gone doing the proverbial toilet. It started off with doing burpees and using resistance bands and designing little circuits and things. That was fun. It was great in the first stint of quarantine, and as time has gone on, you just kind of go, you know what? It's no fun. The motivation isn't there. It's really, really tough. But so now I'm just doing like the odd, I'll do push-ups. I've set myself a challenge of doing, a certain amount of push-ups every day. And I've also, just to keep me busy, set myself a challenge of hitting 15,000 steps a day. Don't ask me why. It's just quarantine boredom. I mean, that's how I fill my time.
You just walk around the room.
Before the Australian Open, the tennis in Australia, different players had to do different lengths of quarantine. Some of them, if anyone was they were on a plane with someone who tested positive, they had to do a strict 2 weeks of quarantine just before the tournament. So you saw all kind of videos of people moving their beds out the way, doing all kinds of improvised, hitting tennis balls against the wall, all sorts of crazy improvising.
I thought it was some sort of like TikTok weird video or something, but that was actually professional tennis players rallying against bedroom walls and practicing volleys and drop shots and things. That was incredible.
I mean, that was tough because some people didn't have to go through quarantine. A few were in quarantine but could play 2 hours of tennis a day. Others couldn't leave their room, no windows open for 2 weeks just before Grand Slam. It was tough on them.
Yeah, I think across the board. I'm not sure what the protocols are with things like F1 and other organizations, but certainly at One Championship, man, it's hats off to all these guys that go through 6 to 8 weeks of camp, training their asses off, flying over amidst a pandemic, and then having to be quarantined or stuck in a hotel without proper access to facilities to continue their training and up until fight night and things like that. It's like I see what these guys do, man, and it's incredible. Like we transform hotel rooms. The mats are all the furniture is taken out. We put mats on the floor. There's pads. There's treadmills. There's like Peloton bikes and things like that. It's unreal what these guys have to go through, man.
It's tough for some of the ones with young families to sometimes have to go for a quarantine, fight, and then another 2 week quarantine. spend so much time, more than usual, than a fight camp, to do what they love, to put food on the table for their family and their kids. It's
absolutely. That's something else. I mean, I can think of one guy right now off the top of my head. I mean, Martin Nguyen.
I was just going to mention, how
prime example, man. I mean, my heart broke for the guy when I heard news that he wasn't able to compete twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To not compete on one Dangal again after what happened in the TNT series.
Yeah, and absolutely. And the guy's got 2 kids. He's got a wife and 2 kids. He's got family back home. So not only was he away, at camp in the States, but having to serve quarantine all because some other guy tested positive on the flight. So.
Well, yeah, and it was a false positive, wasn't it? So someone on the flight false positive. He tested negative 5 times, and then to come back, and then
man, shout out to Martin Nguyen, man.
He hasn't had a lot of luck the last couple of years, really. No. Before COVID, he had a run of bad luck.
Well, and you can imagine how badly that guy wants to get back in there and get back to business after his last match against Tan Le. The guy must be itching to get back inside that circle, and he just can't do it. Can't catch a break.
Well, you got back in the circle, Dom. Finally, I like the red velvet suit as well, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
But you look like, it was a release of, I don't know, frustration, emotion. Did that show really mean a lot to you? And this series of TNT shows, was it kind of where does it rank for you in your whole experience, especially given the way it's gone the last 6 months or so?
Well, to answer your first question, it felt great to get back in there. There's only so much. I mean, I know that we also don't have, the live audiences anymore. I tell a white lie. I mean, they did allow, I think 250 fans into the Singapore indoor stadium under strict protocols, of course. But just to be able to stand in front of these guys, the fighters, and do what I do, and yell out their names and stuff, it jacks me up. It just felt great. If you actually watch, I think it was TNT 1, when I think I made my first announcement or whatever it was, welcoming people to the event, and you could see a smirk. It was actually my girlfriend that pointed it out. She's like, "You were trying to hide a smile for sure." And I was like, "Yeah, I was definitely trying to hide a smile," because it just felt good to be back in there. And especially amidst what's been going on with COVID, we're so blessed, and not just our organization, but as you well know, like the UFC and everyone else, we're so blessed to still have, our jobs to go to, and so that was, it was like a release. It was a release of frustration. It was a release of just bent up insecurity. No one knew what was going to happen. I mean, Leon, I'm sure you're well aware as well. We're just kind of sat there in a holding pattern going, well, if we can't hold events, if we can't have guys, compete and all this stuff, none of us have jobs. None of us have anything to do, to talk about, to write about, all that stuff. So we're very, very blessed. And so, yes, it was a release, and long may it continue, man. And as far as those suits go, I'm going to do a shameless plug to any tailor out there, because there's only so many suits that I can A, afford, and B, keep in my cupboards at home. So, red velvet, maybe green velvet next time. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. But,
well, Chris, you know a few good places, don't you?
Oh yeah, there's a few good ones. I believe you're staying in the Lang Kwai Fong Hotel. There's a good one round the corner called the Prologue. That's my usual go-to. They're pretty good, and they've got some fantastic clothing, and they can definitely go bombastic if you want them to.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll give them a look. I'll tell them you sent me.
Yeah, but you know what? One day, Dom, it'd be nice to see you come out in an SCMP post-fight T-shirt.
Yeah.
One day, that would be the dream.
Absolutely. Hey, absolutely. You got no argument from me, guys. I'll tell you something. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for this, but whatever. For those, do you guys know what the Oculus is?
The Oculus.
VR?
The virtual reality device.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what we've started to do now is we have several cameras set up around the circle, and we've got the guys from I forget the company name, but we've got guys on the ground recording all of our events specifically for VR, so that after the event you can actually go back with your Oculus and you can view all the matches and I tell you, some of these camera angles are insane. It's total game changer. So you guys need to get your hands on an Oculus and check that out. But anyway, where am I going with this? I noticed where the camera is, and I'm like, I want to give a shot. I want to plant like little Easter eggs, because you can actually see everything clearly from like a bird's eye, like from the top of the cage of the fence, right? So what I want to do is I want to try and give like some sort of like shout out to the SCMP, right? Give a shout out to you guys. And maybe have it written on my hand or something like that. Look up at the camera. It'll be ever so subtle, but I'd love to start doing that.
I would love to see
maybe
it.
on one hand, maybe the other hand, Asian Persuasion MMA, the other elite MMA outlet in Asia.
Now we're talking, Leon. Now we're talking. Yes, sir. SCMP and Asian Persuasion. You got it. Done deal.
Sounds good. Well, I wanted to ask you as well, Dom, what it was like when you weren't there. How was the process? Did you have to go and record here in Hong Kong, or did they have you in a studio? You had to like record every possible outcome. How did it work?
Yeah. So suffice it to say, it was a tedious process. So yes, what would happen is unfortunately it's just the technology isn't there to do this sort of thing live in real time. So yes, I would go into a studio. I would record all the intros and everything like that. And yes, there would be a guy behind the sound desk pushing buttons, kind of like a soundboard, pushing the right buttons at the right time. And so yes, that also meant I had to record every single possible outcome for every bout. Essentially, this guy had my job in the palm of his hands, at the tips of his fingers, quite literally. I mean, it was great because I was able to sit, either at home or in a hotel watching the event, which I obviously don't normally get to do live. But I would be nervous. My palms would be sweating because I'd be sat there waiting, when Olivier or whoever the referee is, standing there ready to announce the winner. I'm like, please, for the love of God, push the right button, like, please push the right button. Otherwise I'm going to sound like an idiot. So you do what you have to, you know what I mean? It was the whole team at One Championship. I mean, guys, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but we worked so hard in ensuring that every possible aspect of the broadcast looks as though it's been done live and looks as though it's business as usual, and my hat's off to every single guy, and particular shout out to my man, Dan. His name's Dan, the guy that has my job at his fingertips. He was an absolute legend. Poor guy must have had to sit there like all day in the office, just listening to my voice with a set of cans on, So yeah, that's how we did it. And a little bit of trivia for you. I actually did one of them from quarantine, and I have my own little portable mic, and I would literally get my suitcases, the handlebar from my suitcase, and like a lamp from the room, and drape the duvet over these 2 points just to give myself a little soundproofing. There you go, a little bit of trivia for you. You got to do what you got to do, right?
I was going to ask you about that. If you've done it in situations like at home or in quarantine, did you get like neighbours thinking, "What is this going on next door?" It's just in the red corner.
You're not kidding. I had, when I was at the in the hotel in Hong Kong, my last stint, I actually got a few complaints because they can't come into your room. you know, they want as little physical contact as possible. So we got phone calls saying, first of all, is everything okay? Are you okay? Are you in distress or anything?
How did the murderer get in your room?
But then I'd be like, no, it's fine. I'm just, how do you explain that? I'm like, yeah, I'm just, you know, letting off some steam. But then the next couple of times there were calls from the receptionist saying, yeah, people are complaining that the noise levels are a bit high. Can you please keep it down? So, but again, what can they do? No one was going to come to my room and tell me to stop it, right? They couldn't.
That's it.
That's fantastic. Here's a interesting comment actually in the chat. How hard is it to keep your mouth shut from leaking spoilers? Because you're there, you know the results of the upcoming show, and you've been in that position a few times. Do people ask you, you know, for a little inside information? You know, how do you deal with that?
To be honest, I try just to erase it from my thoughts and my memories, to be honest. On social media platforms, and every now and then I'll get people asking questions, but you just ignore them. It's not fair on you know, obviously on the fans, on the people that work on the production. It's certainly not fair on the athletes. So I just tend to forget about it. Keep it, you know, just keep it out of my mind.
How is it when you watch the shows? Because obviously when you watch something you've already seen, your reaction must be different. And do you look around the room, and if you see everyone standing up, you stand up and pretend to go in with them, or, you know, there's a big shock ending? How do you play that out in front of other people if you're watching it?
I tend to. Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't. You know, I'll watch it with my girlfriend at home, so I'm not in amongst a crowd of people, or anything like that. But it's still fun to watch. It's you know, it's at the end of the day, these guys are putting on a show, you know. And much in the same way that you can go back on, you know, YouTube or the website or anything like that, you can go back and watch these matches after they've happened. You kind of like want to go, I need to see that punch again. I want to make, did he actually connect there, or did he not? Did the guy go down too easily? Did he not? Et cetera, and so on. And then of course the floodgates open, and it's always up for debate. You know, people start talking about on social media, then you can start getting in on the conversation. But it's just, again, it's just one of those, it's, you know, we want to provide content. We want to give more than that. You know, we do want to provide content on our platforms and as an organization, but more than that, we want to give the athletes an opportunity to do what they do best, you know? So whether it's live or not, you know, these guys are still able to do what they do and will do what they love, you know?
One have done a really good job of keeping the results secret. I mean, that's another tough thing for the athletes, as well as the whole quarantine malarkey, is for them to obviously not reveal it in the weeks coming up, whether they've won, lost. Try not to give too many clues away. Try and post neutrally as much as possible. It's tough, but they've done well.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's team effort. Hats off to everybody. And you're right. It must be hard for the athletes as well to be, you know, to not be able to go home and be like, guys, this is what happened, you know. But hey, it is what it is. And it works. I think it works. You know, at the end of the day, we're churning out events. We're giving the people, the fans, what they want. We're giving the athletes what they want. And from a personal standpoint, I'm getting to do what I love. You know, so I'm getting what I want. It's a win-win-win all around.
Is it something you've enjoyed, having no crowds there in a bit of a way, though? Because, you know, we can go to small MMA shows or more regional shows, and you can actually go to a show where you can hear them fight and you can hear them hit. And obviously, it's very, very rare to get this at the top level unless you're in a privileged position like yourself, Dom. But I would imagine being able to, someone like Brandon Vera and Arjun Balor, hearing those guys crack, I mean, you can't really ever hear that with a crowd, even though you're very close. It must be totally different to be in a much more quiet environment.
Absolutely, Chris. I mean, I think the very first, when we first started doing this, the first thing that really resonated with me, quite literally, was hearing the cornermen and the coaches. Being able to hear clearly their instructions and what they're telling the fighters to do was awesome. It was so good. And I think the same goes for other organizations as well. I think it adds, to the show. But yeah, you're right, man. Hearing people and hearing the leg kicks, from the Muay Thai guys and or those hammer fists from the powerhouses like Ong La or as you say, Brandon and Arjun, the heavyweight guys. It's amazing. It really, really is cool.
Yeah.
Someone keeps asking,
but I do miss the fans. I do miss having the guys, just people screaming out and cheering and things, because, certainly for the athletes in particular, it's fuel for them. They feed off of their enthusiasm, and without them, I imagine it must be really difficult for the athletes. I talk to some of them and say, is it hard for you? Is it worse, or do you find that you're able to focus more? Because you can actually hear the instructions from your coaches and your cornermen, but the vast majority of the guys I've spoken to have said, no, I miss the crowd. We feed off their energy. You land a punch and it connects perfectly right on the button, and the crowd goes crazy. That gets your adrenaline going. So anyway, soon.
Where's your favorite crowd where you like announcing, where you like hearing the crowds come back and their reactions? Is there anywhere in particular that, the first time they can feel somewhere with fans and you're going to announce, where's the place you most want?
Obviously, okay, so this is no travel restrictions at all. I'm looking forward to getting back to the Philippines. The Philippines have some amazing fans. Obviously when you have the guys, Filipino athletes competing, that helps, but just all around, for any of the athletes that come out in the arena, the Filipino fans are fantastic. But to this day, the place that gave me literal goosebumps, to the point where I couldn't hear myself, was and still is Myanmar. Just beautiful fans out there, man. And particularly when you have people like Ong La on their card, I mean, you can only imagine what it's like. You can just imagine, it's deafening. Most loyal, just the fans in Myanmar are insane, and they're wonderful. So hopefully things improve soon, and one day we can head back there. But Chris, I think just anywhere where there's going to be a live audience is just going to be so welcomed with open arms for all of us, because it is weird, certainly for me, to scream, "Ladies and gentlemen."
Yeah. Do you have anywhere like on a dream list that you'd one day like to announce somewhere that there's like the mecca of announcing? Would it be a Madison Square Garden? Would it be a Las Vegas? Would it be a Wembley? Like, if you could, there was one place in the world that you'd like to one day.
Well, I'm biased because I'm British, so I would love for one championship to do a show in London. That would be my dream location. And if we're talking about dreams, while we're dreaming, Wembley State. Well, St James's Park would be awesome, because I am a Geordie, as you know. But so long as we're dreaming, Wembley Stadium. I'll take Wembley Arena, but Wembley Stadium or the O2, I don't care. Anywhere in England would be great. I'd love to go to the UK.
Do you support Newcastle then? Are they your team?
I nearly hung up the call just then. Nick, do I support Newcastle United? Of course I do. Of course I do.
Yeah. All right, good.
My family would disown me if I didn't give you that answer.
I guess, there's no other team, right? It's one team city. I think.
Absolutely right, sir.
Some people here, Dom, support a team that's hundreds of miles away from them because they were top of the league when they were a kid. I don't know who you're talking about, Leon.
Well, Chris is a Scouser, so he supports Liverpool.
I have no choice in the matter. My dad said he pretty much made the decision for me. No matter how many times my granddad tried to buy me an Everton kit, it never stuck.
Kudos, man.
Yeah, to talk a bit away from the fighting, how is like the transition into doing The Apprentice gone? Because that it is, I guess it's very similar, but it is kind of a new career path direction in a way, and on such a big stage as well. And I think is it coming to Netflix in America in the next couple of months or?
I don't know. I'm not sure. That would be awesome if it did.
That's what Sage Northcutt said. So Sage said that once. So I swear I think we heard that, but I haven't seen it elsewhere yet.
It's definitely going global in June next month.
Yeah, but
that's right. So I heard that. Yeah, so right now it gets its first broadcast in across Asia, across Southeast Asia. That's the first market, and then obviously that season ends, and then I've heard about. I don't have any solid evidence, but I've heard that yes, in June they're going to roll that out onto Netflix. That's what I heard. And if Sage spilled the beans, then it's got to be true. But
I've done this before. Yeah, I get people in trouble by saying that someone else has said it already, and then they get in trouble. So I don't want to get you in trouble, Dom.
Sorry, Dom.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. But genuinely, hand over my heart, man. I don't know. I heard something about that, but I'm not entirely sure. But no, I think it'd be cool, because to answer your question, Chris, what was the experience like? I think at the time, particularly because of what we were going through with COVID, it was just such a breath of fresh air. It was, we were doing something different. Nobody was really churning out a lot of, original content, throughout Asia, if at all. And so it was cool. It was just met with open arms, and also just because a lot of people want to know what, they want to know what it's like to work for Chatri. They want to know what it's like to work for the boss of one championship, and this gives people, a taste of what it is like to work for the guy, and it also gives people, an insight to what the athletes are like when they're not inside, the circle. So you get to see people like Sage, and you get to see people like Angela and Shangjing Nan and Brendan Beer and whatnot as just regular people on a TV show. So it was a cool experience. And again, it was just a breath of fresh air just to do something,
Well, I got my AXN subscription just for it. So anyone out there in Hong Kong who wants to watch, get AXN. It's absolutely fantastic. But as well, what I think it shows fantastic about the athletes is watch the previous episode. Just everyone, it's got a good mix of. It shows the serious sides of the athletes as well and their fun sides, and you see both sides of Chatri because Chatri is the boss in effect of one championship, but then as well he is a super fun guy. Nick's had him on this podcast loads of times, and he does show you he does have to balance the line between being the boss and being able to telling people what to do, but also balance that with actually being a nice and affable guy. And pretty awesome to see both sides of that of him and the fighters.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, I appreciate that, man, getting the subscription. But yeah, you're right. It's cool. Look, I think it's great that people get an opportunity to see the human side, if you like, of the athletes and of our the boss, and it's just organic, it's as opposed to just looking at one championship one dimensionally as right, they are a fight promotion and that is what they do. It's cool to give people different facets of what one championship does, and that is, we create content and we entertain. That's what we do, and that's what the athletes do. And I just thought it was really cool to see people like, it was a trip for me to meet, say, GSP, for instance, and knowing what he's capable of inside, inside, the octagon or what have you, and then to see him just as George, doing, just hanging out, it was so cool, so humbling. Yeah, it's, who knows? Maybe there'll be a season 2. Let's see what happens if we go to Netflix.
Yeah, you've got to imagine that would blow it up, wouldn't you? If it's on Netflix.
Yeah, well, one would hope so. Oh,
getting cold.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm.
No, get out of here if you need to.
No. I'm just getting a text message telling me that my COVID test came back negative.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah.
You weren't getting told about talking about Netflix.
Yeah. We thought.
Don't mention Netflix.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leon, I interrupted you. Were you saying?
Like I say, Dom, because you had a presenting background before, didn't you? So I guess this was a bit more back to your roots. But I was wondering as well, how did the whole One Championship gig come about for you?
Wow. Okay. Yes, I did have a presenting background before joining One Championship. So I got my start back in 2005. I was just, believe it or not, I was in Hong Kong and I was like I was modeling part-time many years ago. And so rocked up to a casting, an audition, and it was for Channel V, which is like MTV, for those of you that don't know Channel V. And so I got my first stint as a VJ, hosting music shows and the like, and then it went into movies and doing movie review shows and things like that on Fox Movies, and then I moved to E! News, and then I did football shows in Singapore. Just kind of did a lot of TV presenting jobs, and then one day, again, it's a very small world, my former producer at Channel V, who was then working for One Championship, we met at an event. And he asked me if I'd be interested in coming on board as a commentator. So I said, to be perfectly honest with you, no, I don't know. I'd be the worst guy for the job to commentate. So anyway, the next time we met, he asked if I'd be interested in announcing. So I was like, okay, yeah, announcing, I could do that. So I went in and I kind of did a meeting with a bunch of the guys, with Victor and whatnot. And then they got me in to do some prelim bouts. This is back in the day when we had full cards of 12, 13 fights. And so they invited me in to do some prelims, which at the time did not go live to air. So they were kind of okay with this new guy coming in and trying it out. And eventually they thought, cool, let's put this guy on the live card, see how he does. And then one day, they offered me a contract, and I grabbed it with both hands, man. I haven't looked back since. That's how I got my start.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you ever want to do any other stuff outside of One? And are you allowed to? Or is that something you want to do, or is that something in your past?
To be honest with you, I've fallen in love with working with One Championship. I can't deny it. It's just such good camaraderie in the company, and like any company, you form friendships and small little groups and things. And so I've made some great friends at One, and to be honest, I haven't even given it any thought really to doing anything else. I mean, if you just, again, I don't want to be tooting my own horn, but if you kind of look at the job description, it's, you get to travel, you get to visit different, countries, cities, cultures, you get to meet some awesome people. You're hanging out with some of the baddest men and women on the planet, and you've
got the front row ticket. Best seat in the house.
Absolutely, you're getting front row tickets to some of the best shows on earth, and as for my personal job description, I just have to be loud and charismatic and make sure that I pronounce these warriors' names correctly or risk getting a black eye. But no, dude, it's a fantastic job, man, and I'm really eternally grateful to the guys at One for bringing me on board, and for that chance meeting that I had with my former producer at that event, because had it not been for that, none of this probably would be happening right now. I would be sat here chatting to you, fine gentlemen.
What before the pandemic, what would a typical fight week look like for you? When would you arrive? When would you leave? How much preparation do you put in, and what are you working on before and after the show? Things like that.
So, I mean, the preparation for each event is months in the making, which I'm not really part of that process. But I know a lot of the guys, Vic and Rick, Audie, and all the guys, they are planning for this stuff months in advance. As far as I'm concerned, as far as the production is concerned, I mean, the guys are already setting up the ring or the circle a week in advance or thereabouts. For me, I'd look at the card, I'd study them up, I'd want to know what their records are, I'd want to know as much as I could about them, vital statistics and things like that, and then making sure that I get their names phonetically correct. So I would ask them to, or get the staff to make sure that they could send me how they would say their names. And so one of the preparation processes is between myself, Mike Chiavello, and Dragon Chilson, is we'd say, right, how are you saying his name? Because I'm saying it like this, and we've got to say it the same way, because we can't have you saying it one way and me saying it another. It just doesn't make sense. So we spend a lot of time making sure that we get the pronunciations right. And let me tell you, when you have guys from, Thailand and Moldova and Russia and things like that who have very long names with like multiple, syllables, like I'm talking like several syllables in their name, and you're just like, got to make sure I read this correctly. So then I start highlighting my cue cards, writing out their names phonetically, and then making sure that my voice is saved for the week of. I'd like to tell you that there's some sort of ritual or routine that I go through to warm up. Absolutely none whatsoever. I walk into that circle and I just belt out my voice. That's it. But I do have some hot tea and lemon and honey at my desk at all times. But and then you try to keep things as relaxed as possible. I mean, I'm nervous every time I go in, but that's a good thing. I think it's good to have nerves and use that and channel that into positive energy. Case in point was TNT, the TNT series, certainly 1 and 4, where we knew that we were going live to prime time in North America. You could see the hand that was holding the cue cards. I was actually shaking. I was quite nervous. But again, just channeling that energy. And so, keeping things lighthearted when we're there. I don't know if you've checked out my stories or anything like that, but I like to goof around with Olivier Coste.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I call him the boss Olivier Coste. And what started off as a bit of a joke has now turned into like just the norm. I put on this really over the top French accent, which kind of it's weird because it kind of borderlines Borat every now and then, but I do that all the time whenever I see Olivier, and people just they seem to like it. Olivier and I, we hang out, we'll go to the gym in our downtime. We'll discuss the athletes and the bouts and things, and then it's like, okay, mon ami, what are we doing today? How are we going to keep our chill before the event? And shout out to the boss, Olivier Coste, head referee of One Championship.
Well, I've heard many a rumor from many a person that if you see Dom and Olivier in the gym, just don't go in because it can get quite competitive.
Oh yes. The guy, he's actually the reason why now in quarantine I'm doing as many steps as I'm doing. He's the guy that goes, "Hey, Dom, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to do 10,000 steps today. Now I'm going to change it to 15,000." And I'm like, well, shit, if he's going to do that, I need to be able to keep up. I need to, it's a good little friendly rivalry goes on in the gym, and like, how much can you bench and how much can you deadlift? How many push-ups can you do unbroke, and this, that, and the other. So of course we do that, but then, someone like Alan Galani walks in, we're just like, you know what, we're done. See ya. Yeah. It's all fun and games in the gym when we travel, but then as soon as an athlete walks in the door, we're just like, we're not worthy. We're not worthy.
And another question is, have you ever thought about going to like Lloyd's of London or getting in a cab down to AIA and Central and getting the voice insured? Has that ever crossed your mind?
Do you know what? Is that even possible? I mean, I don't know.
So, yeah. I know the opera singers go and get them done. So,
right.
You never know.
Yeah, no, someone, actually, you're not the first person to suggest that. Someone said, why don't you get, Heidi Klum got her legs, insured for whatever, and da-da-da-da. Why don't you get your voice, why don't you get your voice insured? He says as he burps, sorry about that. But no, if that's even possible, I would consider it. I mean, my job would be rendered useless if my voice went, right? So, yeah, definitely.
We have a comment saying there's a handsome panel tonight. I think that's all you, Dom, and Leon, obviously.
Oh, come on, man. It's a handsome panel all the time. What are you talking about?
There you go. Sorry, my computer froze.
Meister Echo. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Or woman, whoever it is.
We did want to we were previewing Dangal. I know you can't give results away, of course, but what could people expect from this show? You know what's coming, but if you give us a vibe, how did it go? Like, is there going to be action? What can you tell us without any spoilers? Just
that's kind of tough, but
yeah,
cough twice if Brandon won.
Look, man, the thing is since day one, Brandon Vera has had, through no fault of his own, a target painted on his back. I mean, he currently is the only heavyweight champ that one championship has ever known. So obviously guys are going to be, begging for a shot to take that strap away from him. So expect more of the same with Arjun Balor. I mean, this guy is big, and he's hungry. He's very, very hungry. He wants that world title. But like I say, Brendan's been training hard. He's been training now. He was at Alliance, I think, MMA. And he's been training at Sanford. So he's worked hard for this, man. It's just, like you said at the beginning of the show, some heavy hitters, man. It's awesome when you don't have that crowd in the background and you can hear those punches connect. So yeah, expect that. It's weird to do this, but yeah, expect that. And yeah, I'm trying to remember who's on the card. So we got B Nguyen up against Ritu. B is hungry. There you go. That's it.
That's an interesting one with the Astral Weight Grand Prix around the corner.
Yeah, so that was a hot talking point for many people, and it wasn't actually until I spoken to B, just in passing, that I even started thinking about it. But she was like, I want in to this Grand Prix, that's coming up. I don't even know why I was overlooked, X, Y, and Z, but I want in. And so clearly her argument on paper, anyway, it makes sense that if she beats Ritu, that she should be allowed in and take her spot. But it's, again, really up for debate on that one. But no, this is going to be good. Undefeated Ritu Phogat, crown jewel of women's MMA in India, and obviously comes from a huge wrestling legacy, and so that's going to be a good fight to watch, definitely.
You got the app, Dom? I think you got the app, haven't you? Fanatics.
I do.
You got to join our group if you haven't already. We have the SCMP group there now. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to
come in. Yeah, because
Well,
we
Dom
do
might
this every week.
well.
The problem now, listen.
Yeah, Dom would do well, wouldn't he? Yeah, I guess you couldn't make one championship picks.
I exactly right. There was one time I think my boy JT, I'm on that that group, and I thought just for shits and giggles I would even though just for that one bout, one event. I put some results on there, and they're like, "Whoa, Dom, how did you? That was amazing. How did you know?" Anyway, now you know. So I try not to do anything on that anymore because it's just not right.
Well, I think
But
now it's
I'd love to join your group, guys.
Yeah, do it. Get involved. The link is there in the yellow ticker for anyone watching. You can go to getfanatics.app/SCMP. It's on the App Store. Chris will tell you where else it is. He knows way more than me.
You can
Chris
get it
knows all
on the Huawei store, the Apple App Store. You can get it in the Google Play Store. Download it. It's absolutely fantastic. And you can find out everything you need about your fighters. It's got all the records on there. It's got links to our articles, links to our videos. They've got their own content going up on there. And you can just challenge us and see how you do. And we don't just do one championship. We don't just do UFC. We do PFL, we do KSW over in Poland, we do the odd freak show fight on there with Askren and Jake Paul, so you can have a lot of fun, and it's just a bit of a talking point. You can create your own group with your mates if you want a little bit of banter and back and forward and see who knows the most about the sport.
Yeah, and we make our picks for each fight, as you can see on the screen here, so you can compete against us, and the so-called experts, you can put us in our place. I don't do very well at this at all, but Chris does pretty well. So
I have one more question for Dom, actually. We look out the window now, it's hot, it's blue skies. I'm excited to get outside because I can. I'm not in quarantine, touch wood. But living in Hong Kong, what's your favorite hike and what's your favorite beach?
Wow.
I know it's a bit random. I'm not trying to stalk you, but the weather's nice and it's making me think to get outside. Sorry.
No worries, man. That's a good question. I like that. Favorite hike, favorite beach. Well, it wasn't until I had to start doing quarantine that I even sort of got into hiking. I'm not even into hiking, I don't think. I mean, I just like being outdoors now as much as possible. So hiking, Dragon's Back. It's a classic, you know what I mean? And once you finish it, you've got Big Wave Bay right there. And so if anyone who's ever going to visit Hong Kong in the future, or if you live in Hong Kong, you haven't done it, do it. And then, finish it off. You burn enough calories, finish it off with a bowl of Qingtao and some wonton noodles at the other side. That's what I like to do. And as far as beaches go, there's some really nice beaches out on the other side, in Clearwater Bay. So Dalong Wan, I think, is probably my favorite beach. It's just clean. It's not commercialized like Repulse Bay or anything like that. But if I want to go somewhere local, somewhere close, and a quick fix for just being at the beach and getting the sand between the toes, then probably Deepwater Bay. I just hop on my bike, head down there, and it's and you got that. I can't remember what it's called now. That restaurant right in the middle.
Yeah, with the coconuts.
Coconuts and whatnot. So yeah, super chill, dude. I'm telling you, one more sleep. I cannot wait to get out of this quarantine, and I'm just gonna do as much as I can as soon as I'm out of here, man.
What are you doing first, the gym or the pub or what?
Well,
get some nice food.
Yeah, food. That's the first thing I'm gonna do, man. I'm gonna get some good food.
Straight down the globe for a pie or what?
Absolutely. Why not? I'll see you down there.
Yeah. Not too
far.
But
like, I tell you, like just the small things, man. It's things like being able to open your own fridge, and get your own food. I've been living out of mini fridges for longer than I'd like to think, and you can't cook. Like, I'm living off of like delivery and what the hotel supplies and things like that. Don't even get me started on Penny's Bay again. So just being able to the things that you take for granted, like having a shower in my own shower, sleeping in my own bed. Let's, never take that shit for granted anymore. That's for sure.
Well, one more day. We normally do an hour and a half on this, so there's like 5 minutes left. Just wanted to quickly round up our picks. Gary Mangat in that first fight against Roshan. Chris, I'm going to ask you who you're picking first. I know Dom cannot give us any inside info, so I'll go to Chris.
It's just that this is such a tough fight to call. They're both absolute warriors. You've got two guys kind of at different stages in their career. Roshan is much more of a guy on the come up, while obviously Gary, I think this is his 5th fight in the organization. He's been on a bit of a tear since coming over. He fought over in Brave, fought Stephen Lohman, who's now joined the organization. Hopefully they can run that back in the future. I think it would be fantastic. Gary Mangat, I think he's 34 years old now. So obviously, particularly for his weight division, the bantamweight, he is starting to get a little bit older. He probably does want to go for the title, and I think he's just going to absolutely go for it. I think he's going to leave everything in the cage, and I just think he's going to edge this one out, but I think it's going to be super tight, and I think it can go both ways.
You convinced me. Leon, I know you like to sit on the fence, Leon. Are you going to give us an official prediction?
This is another interesting one where I'm tennis on the fence, but I will give the stage as well to Gary. But again, this is an interesting one, obviously both coming from Indian backgrounds. Yeah, it should be a good start to the card.
It should be. I think my computer's frozen again, so I'll just read it off my phone. Ayaka Miura against Ryan Bestos. Leon, I'm going to you first, so you can't sit on the fence. I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, this is another interesting one. Ayaka, she would have got probably the next. She would have got the next title shot, but she lost to Tiffany Teo, which I thought she was going to win that fight. So she's going to be wanting to get back in the title scene. Then Bestos, I think she's unbeaten in her career. Got a couple of big wins.
One draw, 4-0, one draw. It looks like here.
Yeah. So yeah.
Evelyn Gomez.
Yes, to Ayaka, but again, this is another interesting one on paper. I'm looking forward to.
Chris has gone for Bestos. I see already.
Yeah, just all the tape I've watched of her. She's an amazing fighter. Every time she fights, she leaves everything in the ring. Amazing jiu-jitsu, absolutely amazing on the ground. And, she has fought in Jungle Fight before. She did a little bit on the regional scene. Obviously, she's only had those 5 fights. But what people have to think about Ryan Bestos is, and it's not really talked about, she made her debut at 16 over in Brazil. She's been fighting the whole time. She's had a few fights, took a little bit of time off, had a few fights, took a bit of time off. Worked on her game round herself out from jiu-jitsu, and you know what, it just to show you that this is the kind of signing we have been seeing from One Championship, particularly over the last 2 years, where initially they had the best talent in the region, but now they're attracting great talent from all over the world, and it is just a leveling up of divisions. I think it can go both ways, but Ryan Bestos, maybe she's not one to watch right now, but she's definitely one to watch for the future. And she can lose this fight, but in the next 3 or 4 years, the only way is up. But I actually think a little bit of a surprise here. So I'm backing Bestos. Think it might be a little bit of a submission, but it'll be tough to see. But Bestos is my girl.
Yeah, I'm going to go for that.
It's so one-sided in the odds and the 79%. I think it's going to be very competitive.
Bestos, that's why I'm going for it. Yeah,
as well. Who's a good prospect.
Oh, we saw that one, didn't we? In KL. We were there. Awesome. Yeah, she looked very good in that fight. Plus 195 seems good for me. I can win some points there. It's all about picking the underdogs if you fancy them. So one more fight. Quickly, we did. So Tawanchai PK Sanchai against Sean Clancy in the co-main event Muay Thai bout. Chris, throw it to you first. And then we rounded the card off.
Such a tough fight to call. I mean, Sean Clancy is absolute amazing athlete, absolute amazing Muay Thai practitioner. Great skills, fantastic. He was, I believe, Ireland's first ever Muay Thai champion, catching the WBC Muay Thai World Championship. But the only problem is you just watch Tawanchai, and he's just one of those Thai guys who's grown up doing the sport. Sean Clancy never started doing Muay Thai until he was 21. Tawanchai is 21, and I think he's 124 and 30 according to the One Championship website. G10, you need to update this, get to it. But yeah, I think we're absolutely in for a war. I'm just picking to Anchai. I think it's going to be a decision, and it is super tight. Actually, the odds don't really reflect how tight a fight this is going to be. I mean, we had, I think, plus minus 600, I think, on Rodtang, and Williams absolutely gave them the fight and made them work for that. But I'm going to back to Anchai in this fight. I think he's exciting. I think he's awesome. And I do believe this is his debut, or he signed only very recently with One Championship. Yeah. So it does bode very, very well for the future, and particularly in this division is one of their best kickboxing divisions. To just add another killer, one has some of the best MMA divisions in the world, and has some of the best Muay Thai divisions in the world, has some of the best kickboxing divisions in the world. We know there's going to be a show in August as well with Shinya Aoki and Gordon Ryan. So we're even adding some of the best grapplers in the world now, and I mean, not just One Championship, but all of MMA. It's the best time to be alive if you are a combat fan. There's just so much out there. But yeah, Tawanchai is the guy.
All right, and Leon, your fence sitting again?
Tawanchai as well.
All right, all bold.
So okay. Ask Dom, how good is it? How good has the One Super Series been last couple of years in One Championship?
Oh man, it's just fantastic. It really is, and it's unearthed for people that weren't, and I was one of them who weren't aware of people like Rodtang's existence. The guy he's so much fun to watch, and just you want to watch him fight more and more and more. I mean, I think back to that fight against Haggerty. Both of them were absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, just having those guys and giving them the sort of platform that One Championship can provide, it's only good for the sport, man. And it's definitely one of the better. Not taking anything away from any of the other divisions or sports, if you like, but having that it's different level, and what they do with you guys have been there, front row, and seeing these events, to see what these guys do and what they do with their bodies, man, and it's unreal. I got huge respect for everybody that gets in that ring doing Muay Thai or kickboxing. It's sick. So yeah, Super Series is great. Love it.
It does just show you how spoiled we've been, particularly in One Championship. We've had the one on TNT series that has been somewhat historical, with them getting the TNT deal. We've got Empower, which is historical with the all-women's card. You don't go that far back, and we had Senshin and New Era, where they went into the Japanese market, which is in some way historical. And then we've got Dangal, which I think it's fair to say this is the biggest event in probably the history of Indian MMA ever, in my opinion. And just another historical event in One Championship.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Chris, as well. I think it's a great time to be alive if you are a combat sports fan. Because as you say, we are so spoilt for choice. And, One Championship is able to deliver that. There's something for everybody, male, female, grappler, kickboxer, Muay Thai, wrestler, you name it. There's something for everyone. I think it's great. And it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Well, I think we come to the end of it. We have gone over 1.5 hours, so don't want to take up any more of Dom's time, although some people like to chat to us because they got nothing else to do when they're in quarantine. So, we had Rene Derrida a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, we thought we'd get 15 minutes with him. He did an hour. So, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good guy, Rene. But anyway, yes, someone mentioned Gordon Ryan. I think it was you, Chris. I think I got an interview with Gordon Ryan on Tuesday, so look out for that, everyone. We'll be back on Saturday, won't we, guys, for the fight companion for Dangal. So look out for that. And I think I've got Elise Anderson. I'm interviewing her tomorrow. So plenty of stuff coming, plenty of One Championship content. Leon, what do you got coming up soon?
No, a lot of that's been on hold, really. Just some busy packing and adapting to restrictions here to get to Indonesia, which is annoying because I want to try and speak to as many of the atomweight Grand Prix athletes as possible. So, and I don't know, what's your Wi-Fi like? I've heard the quarantine Wi-Fi often isn't that great, which is a bit of a concern.
It depends on where you're staying, really. But generally, it's all right. You'd be good. I mean, do you know where you're going to be staying?
I've got a whole list of hotels that are doing the quarantines, and apparently they're all similar price, they're all similar, but apparently the Wi-Fi isn't that great. You've been in Jakarta, so yeah, it's just I'll have to wait and see if I can do any interviews there. Might not have strong enough Wi-Fi, but might have to see how it goes. I don't know.
All right, pray to the Wi-Fi gods for Leon. Otherwise, yes, Dom, thank you for joining us. Real pleasure to pick your brains and catch up with you. I haven't seen you since the last show I went to was December 2019, so great to catch up. Yeah, sorry, Chris.
Just a cheeky little plug. Anyone who likes Dom, definitely get him on the Instagram. It's absolutely awesome to follow. You can see all the brown food you want of quarantine meal to quarantine meal, and you can see some of the banter with Olivier Coste. And while you're here, like and subscribe to SCMP MMA. Follow all of our stuff on South China Morning Post and all the content we put out there. Check out Leon, Asian Persuasion MMA. At me at Twitter. I'm trying to do my one championship pound for pound list. I've managed to anger a lot of people in the Philippines by having no Filipinos on that list. I'm sorry, Stephen Lohman hasn't fought yet. And yeah, just that's it. Shameless plug. Oh, get Fanatics while you're at it. Why not?
Yeah, Fanatics, download it. Yeah. Dom, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Chris is the PR man. Yeah, cheers, Dom. Really appreciate you jumping on today. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
Yeah, great. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Big fan. And thanks again.
Yeah, I miss hanging out with you guys after the shows, and it's always fun being
yes, sir.
Week, so hopefully we can do it again.
I do have fragmented memory of hanging out with you after that event. I can't remember which event it was. Was it in Malaysia or?
Yeah,
KO.
We were in the Leon was there as well. Yeah,
yeah.
That's the only time I've ever seen Leon drunk was then. So. Yeah, he didn't turn up till 5 p.m. the next day. I think I couldn't get hold. I thought you were dead. Never seen you drunk like that. Well, no, that was cool. Yeah, can't wait to see you again, man. Yeah, and good luck tomorrow. Enjoy your first day of freedom when you get out. And
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely,
sure
can't wait, man.
Again soon, man. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, you guys. Again, big fan of what you do. Keep it up, and hope to catch up with you in person soon.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks everyone in the chat for watching and commenting. And like and subscribe. We'll see you again next